Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Masonic Shelf Shorts. I've been left on my own tonight. I have to introduce our tonight's guest all by myself. And as it turns out, our guest tonight is my co-host, Bradley Kohanke, who is a past master of Davy Crockett Lodge number 1225 here in San Antonio twice, and currently resides someplace in another country named Arkansas or something. And he is bringing us a great little Masonic Shelf short tonight. It is, if you've ever wondered what the deeper meanings of the EA degree Bible scriptures are, this shelf short is going to tell you. It's really interesting. Sit back, relax, enjoy this.
The opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the hosts and guests and do not represent the views of any Grand Lodge nor appendant body of Freemasonry.
Good evening, everybody. Tonight, it's my turn to do a short. And a long time ago, when Chris and I were pretty active together in Blue Lodge, we had decided that there was a lot of time spent educating entered apprentices and fellow crafts on the memorization work, but not a lot of time spent trying to explain to them what some of that stuff meant. And so we decided that we were going to hold monthly classes. And one of the programs that I wrote for those education classes had to do with the importance of a particular reading of scripture that is prominent in the Entered Apprentice Mason's Lodge and Degree. And that scripture reading comes from Psalm 133. Now, this was one of approximately 36 songs of joy and praise that were recorded in the book of Psalms, and this being one of the many that were reported to have been written by King David himself. And it says, "Behold, how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity." He begins by telling us, behold. In other words, listen, observe, take note, make sure you understand, because this is greatly important. And then he tells you how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. He's telling you that there are a multitude of benefits to be reaped by living together in friendship and brotherly love, and that this is of the utmost importance to you. Then, just in case you don't immediately perceive how important those benefits are, he goes on to give several examples to compare it to the ancient Israelites and what they would have been able to recognize immediately. The first being, it is like the precious ointment upon the head that ran down upon the beard, even Aaron's beard, that went down to the skirts of his garments. Now, the act of using oil to bless, consecrate, or anoint was a practice used during that time period. And when it was done, it was extremely meaningful and important to those who were involved and who witnessed it. But we're talking about a precious ointment, specifically the ointment used on Aaron. And we know who Aaron was. Aaron was the brother of Moses and the very first high priest of Israel. In the book of Leviticus, it describes in detail what instructions God gave to Moses in order to prepare and consecrate his brother Aaron as the one man chosen by God to communicate directly with God in the Holy of Holies on behalf of the Israelites. Aaron was dressed in fancy robes with a breastplate decorated with 12 precious stones, one for each of the 12 tribes of Israel. Now, this was vitally important. When Aaron was anointed with this precious oil, it signified to the people that they had a way to communicate directly with God. And so much of this oil was used that it washed over Aaron, down his face and into his clothes, even down to the hems of his robes. Now, the overwhelming feeling of joy and relief that the people of Israel must have felt at that moment must have been wonderful and precious and overflowing, much like the amount of precious oil used to anoint Aaron. So the implication here is that the feeling you derive from dwelling together in unity with your brethren should produce that same feeling of joy. This unity and brotherhood is essential to the success of Freemasonry. And finally, it says, as the dew of Hermon, and as the dew that descended upon the mountains of Zion, for there the Lord commanded the blessing, even life forevermore. So, who was Hermon? And why are we talking about the dew of Hermon? Well, first of all, Hermon isn't a who, it's a what. Hermon is a mountain in the northern part of the Holy Land. As a matter of fact, it's the highest mountain in the area. And I read that there's even a ski resort there now. That's how high it is. And it is said that the dew that gathers regularly on the slopes of Mount Hermon is as thick as a light rain. And instead of evaporating, it gathers and flows downhill to feed the River Jordan. In the summer months, the land was arid, and the life-giving dew descending from Mount Hermon was essential for sustaining their crops. So you can imagine the feeling it would create when the people saw the dew gathered on its slopes. And likewise, living in friendship and unity with your brethren helps to sustain you during the trials and tribulations of life. The mountains of Zion is tougher to explain. There are no real mountains of Zion as far as I can tell. The term Mount Zion is often meant to refer to Jerusalem, where David built his capital, or to the entire area that was Israel, or sometimes to the high country south of the city. But regardless, there is again the reference to the gathering of life-sustaining dew. But even more importantly than that is the blessing commanded there by the Lord, even life forevermore. Now, what more joyful revelation could you possibly receive than that this life is not the end, that there is, in fact, an everlasting life beyond the grave? So, taken together as a whole, behold how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. It is like the precious ointment upon the head that ran down upon the beard, even Aaron's beard, that went down to the skirts of his garment. As the dew of Hermon, and as the dew that descended upon the mountains of Zion, for there the Lord commanded the blessing, even life forevermore. Now, to me, in my own version of modern English, this would sound more like this. Listen up, guys, this is really important. Take a second to look around and see how happy your brethren are. Pay attention to how wonderful it is and how good it feels when we all get along. It's like the feeling you get when your deepest and most urgent prayers are answered and you realize that God hears you. It's like a much-needed rain after a drought. How else can I describe it? It's like knowing beyond a shadow of a doubt that your life will continue beyond the grave and that the voices of loved ones long missed will be waiting to greet you on the other side. Living together in peaceful harmony truly is a blessing from God.